Good day, everyone. I'm Renato Tampol of the University of Santo Tomas, Manila, Philippines. My topic is about the integration of the organizational culture and HR practices of the SVD educational institutions in the Philippines towards the institutionalized HR policy. SVD means Society of the Divine Word, a missionary congregation of a church working in the Philippines. And this SVD has 12 educational institutions, of which the purpose of this study is to have these institutions an institutionalized HR policy. But I will start with the introduction, then followed by a research problem, objectives, theoretical framework, conceptual framework, hypothesis, research methodology, data measures, and conclusions. Can institutionalized HR policy helps the organization in aligning its strategies and decision-making with its cultural ideals to be able to achieve its visions and objectives? This question can be answered by these authors. According to Berman in 2016, HR policies support the organization's vision, mission, and culture that should be properly communicated to the employees for better understanding to avoid infractions. HR policies should be communicated properly to the employees. Otherwise, if not, employees will not understand what they're going to do. That will result to violations of rules and regulations of the organization. According to Dr. Raju in 2020, HR policies set guidelines for the employee behavior and proper conduct in the context of the organization to avoid untoward incidents that will lead to legal situations. So again, if the HR policies are communicated to the employees behave according to the rules and regulations of the organization. So in other words, there will be no conflict that will arise because employees understood properly what they are going to do and behave according to the context, according to the rules and regulations of the organization. According to Hazra, Singopta, and Ghosh in 2013, HR policies are a guide to formulate strategies and policy-making decisions, especially to maximize employees' performance in the organization. Of course, there's a need always to formulate strategies, especially responding to the needs of the present. And these strategies are always in accordance to the overall policies of the organization. So in doing so, the employees' performance special performances are on its highest level. For Al-Kalha, Al-Zubi, Demore, Al-Ashuridi in 2012, they said they are positively identified with organizational performance when employees participate in its decision-making process. Very often, the organization conduct evaluation and planning that involves the employees. So in other words, when it comes to the decision-making process, it is also good that employees are involved because they're able to own it, the new rules, the policies of the organization. When they own it, they work positively to fulfill it according to its organization's vision, mission, and goals. According to Kosk in 2019, the competitiveness of the organization depends largely on its sound policies cascaded through its practices that affect job satisfaction and commitment of employees. So, HR policies, when cascaded to the employees and embedded in the practices, it results to job satisfaction and commitment of the employees, especially to remain in the organization. So it is necessary that all policies should be properly communicated, and it is also part and parcel of the practices, daily practices of the organization. And Berman in 2016, HR policies together with its procedures and programs are key supports for the fulfillment of the organization's vision, mission, and goals. So there is always a common understanding. When we talk of policies, it is always geared towards the fulfillment of the organization's vision, mission, and goals. Of course, participated by all members of the organization, from the administrators up to the rank and file employees. For Lakshmi and Matsa in 2020, they are principles or objectives instituted by the management to preempt misunderstanding between employer and employee about the rights and obligations of the organization. So it is necessary that employees know their rights, but also they should know their obligations to the organization. In the same way that employer knows also the rights of the employer and also the obligations, especially to the employees. So if there is a mutual understanding on this, especially on the rights and obligations to each other, it creates a harmonious relationship in the organization. The research problem, of course, is of this study. This study will focus on how the SVD education institutions organizational culture integrates with HR practices towards institutionalizing HR policies applicable to all institutions. When we talk of organizational culture of the SVD education institutions, we are referring to the Association of SVD Schools, because these organizations, these education institutions have an association called Divine Word Educational Association, Divine Word Educational Association, which has its own core values. That the core values of this association of the SVD education institutions should be also part of the core values of all these 12 members institutions. Because if they are part of the 12 members of these institutions, it will be easier for the administrators when transferring from one school to another not to really adjust, but because he knows already the policies, because it is grounded or rooted in the Divine Word Educational Association. So this is the goal, because this is the gap. At present, there is none like that. There is no institutionalized HR policies across the SVD educational institutions in the Philippines. So the objectives of this research, of course, number one is to know how respondents perceived SVD education institutions' organizational culture in terms of its core values, namely integrity, excellence, commitment, evangelization, leadership, and social responsibility. So they are the core values of the SVD schools. And number two is to discover the extent of integration of these SVD education institutions' organizational culture, these core values, the 6 core values, in terms of integrity, excellence, commitment, evangelization, leadership, social responsibility, to its HR practices, namely the hiring, training and development, compensation and benefits, employee relations, performance appraisal, health and safety, and work-life balance. And number 3 is, of course, to determine the significant difference of the respondents' perception on the extent of integration of the SVD educational institutions' organizational culture in terms of integrity, excellence, commitment, evangelization, leadership, and social responsibility to its HR practices, namely hiring, training, development, compensation and benefits, employee relations, performance appraisal, health and safety, and work-life balance. So this is the integration, the diagram of the integration of the SVD education institutions, organizational culture, and HR practices for the 6 core values of the SVD education institutions to the 7 HR practices. And it is anchored on the congruence model that says a team or organization can only succeed when the work, the people, the organizational culture, and the organizational structure and the culture fit together, thus an improved organizational performance. So the integration should be clear to all, especially for this research. This is the goal to see if employees and administrators of the organization see the integration of the two, the core values, the culture of the organizational institutions, and the HR practices. So this is also the research paradigm. Of course, we start with determination stage, the integration of organizational culture and HR practices, wherein we utilize an interview guide or with guide questions with the members of the institutions, the employees and administrators, maybe around 30 employees and administrators combined. And then after that, at the analysis stage, the extent of influence and degree of effectiveness, of course, with the administrators and employees. Then after that is the designing stage of the HR policy, which is the goal of this study. Hypothesis, of course, we have the 6 core values of the Divine Word Educational Association, part of the organizational culture, and also the HR practices. 6 core values to 7 HR practices. So hypothesis 1, there is a significant difference of the respondents' perception on the extent of integration of the SVD education institutions' organizational culture in terms of integrity to its HR practices, namely hiring, training development, compensation benefits, employee relations, performance appraisal, work-life balance, and health and safety. So integrity to all HR practices. Hypothesis number 2 talks about excellence and its integration with the 7 HR practices. So there's a significant difference of the respondents' perception on the extent of integration of the SVD education institutions' organizational culture in terms of excellence to its HR practices, namely hiring, training and development, compensation benefits, employee relations, performance appraisal, work-life balance, and health and safety. Hypothesis number 3, that there is a significant difference of the respondents' perception, the extent of integration of the SVD education institutions' organizational culture in terms of evangelization to its HR practices, namely hiring, training and development, compensation benefits, employee relations, performance appraisal, work-life balance, and health and safety. Hypothesis number 4, that there is a significant difference of the respondents' perception on the extent of integration of the SVD education institutions' organizational culture in terms of leadership to its HR practices, namely hiring, training and development, compensation benefits, employee relations, performance appraisal, work-life balance, and health and safety. On hypothesis number 5, it says that there is significant difference of the respondents' perception on the extent of integration of the SVD education institutions' organizational culture in terms of commitment to its HR practices, namely hiring, training development, compensation benefits, employee relations, performance appraisal, work-life balance, and health and safety. Lastly, in hypothesis number 6, that there is a significant difference of the respondents' perception and the extent of integration of the SPD education institution's organizational culture in terms of social responsibility to its practices, namely hiring, training and development, compensation and benefits, employee relations, performance appraisal, work-life balance, and health and safety. Of course, on the methodology, it is an exploratory sequential mixed method, a three-phase design, and on illustration adopted from Criswell and Criswell 2018. It starts with qualitative data collection and analysis through interview with guide questions, and the second is identify feature for testing for new instrument. After getting the data, we identify features because there could be some other cultures of the education institutions that are not included in the core values, so it will be included here in this development of the new instrument. And the third phase, of course, the quantitatively test the feature design. Of course, this is already the questionnaire that will be distributed through online to the respondent institutions, the employees and employers. And of course, employees and administrators. And of course, the interpretation of the results. So, of course, the qualitative data for the collection through online interview. So the researcher will be conduct an interview online with 30 employees and administrators from different schools to explore the culture of the SPD education institutions to the way of our values. So other culture might be coming out aside only from the core values of the Divine Word Education Association. And of course, the second phase is to identify the way of core values, and other culture will then become the basis for the development of items of organizational culture construct in the instrument for the quantitative data collection. And the items of this construct in the instrument will be derived from the review of the literature. The process of developing or building the quantitative measure is called the second phase. Maybe around 800 questionnaires will be distributed to the respondents' institutions. And of course, number 3, the gathered data will be subjected to analysis subsequently. The quantitative data collection analysis will comprise the third phase. The data measures the validity of the instrument and reliability. The researcher will use Kernbach Alpha and expert validation. And the conclusions of the study: HR policies, when properly communicated to all the members of the organization, can bring a harmonious relationship between the employer and the employee. This is very necessary for the organization to fully implement HR policies, because harmonious relationship is also necessary in the organization, so that dissatisfaction that will lead to conflict will be avoided. It inspires employees to maximize performance according to the organization's vision, mission, and goals. When properly communicated and employees understood it very well, so they are inspired to perform to the highest level. Of course, according to the organization's vision, mission, and goals. Of course, the third, it brings positive experience to employees. This proper implementation of HR policies and communicated to the employees that motivates commitment to remain in the organization. So employees remain in the organization when they are happy, when they are fulfilled in working in the organization. So thank you very much, and God bless us all.